Well, when it rains, it pours, and the Detroit Tigers have dropped a 3-game set to the Houston Astros in a series that kind of perfectly encapsulates the 2026 season.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, June 29th, 2026. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today, we are going to discuss the Detroit Tigers dropping 3 of 4 to the Houston Astros. Obviously, we'll focus mostly on those last 3 games, as game 1 of the series was Friday's episode. That was obviously a loss. And then they dropped 2 of 3 over the weekend. We also have some roster moves to get to, new waiver claim to add. So a handful of things to go over on the itinerary here. But we'll start with the ball games on the field. An 8-0 win on Friday, an 8-6 loss on Saturday, and a 7-5 loss in 10 innings on Sunday puts the Tigers at 35-49 on the season, as the Astros improve to 42-44 on the same season. First thought is, I said it in the cold open, this series really, to me, perfectly encapsulates the Detroit Tigers 2026 campaign. Game 1, the offense stinks. The pitching, really good. They lose. Game 2, everything is great. They win 8-0. Game 3, the offense shows up. So the starting pitching and the bullpen don't. Game 4, the offense does enough, in my opinion, in a Hunter Brown start for the opponent. You have a lead late, the bullpen, and the defense blow it. I guess what I'm trying to articulate here is it is just always something with this team this year, man. They have gotten fantastic bullpen production the entire month of June. Fantastic. Legitimately have go before Sunday, well, before Saturday, I guess I should say, going into this series, they legitimately had some of the best bullpen numbers in all of baseball in the month of June. So naturally, the offense shows up and they completely collapse. The defense hasn't been nearly as big of a problem as of late as it was for most of the month of May and really the first 2 months of the year. So naturally, that goes back into the gutter when they have a lead late. They just refuse to put it all together. They have some starts where the offense shows up and then the pitching doesn't. The pitching shows up, the offense doesn't. The starting pitching and the offense show up, so the bullpen and the defense suck. It's just they refuse to put it all together. And that's why you see these people putting out like, oh, the Tigers have their run differentials, so one of the best in the division, or they're expected, statistically expected win-loss is like the best in the division or toward the top. And it's like, well, yeah, because they have decent players. And they show different areas show that they can be good. Right? Like that, you don't make the playoffs 2 years in a row on accident, despite all the nonsense that happened in each of those years. But it's also worth pointing out, in both of those years, they couldn't put all of that together for 162. They stunk for half of each of those seasons. And we're seeing that now again. They have moments where they're really good. They have decent players. They have 3 really good players. 3 of the best players in Major League Baseball at that. But they refuse to put every aspect together all at once. Refuse is probably too dramatic. I'm sure they would like to and are trying to, but they can't. They can't put every facet of baseball together for a prolonged period of time. So what went wrong? I do want to start with the bullpen. As I said, just so fitting that the bullpen completely collapses really for the first time in the entire month of June in a weekend in which they get good starting pitching production and good offense. The pen blows game 3 and 4 this weekend. I want to start with Will Vest. His ERA is now over 6 on the season. Obviously blew the game on Saturday. His whip with runners in scoring position, okay? So this is quite literally just the amount of base runners he allows per inning with a runner in scoring position. It is 2.85 on the season, dog. That I actually can't really articulate, other than just reading the number out loud, how remarkably bad that is. His ERA in May was obviously over 10 on the season. Whip with RISP, okay? A lot of acronyms there. 2.85. He's always relied on the ground ball. He's always been a really high ground ball rate pitcher, but he has always paired that with a really solid strikeout rate and swing and miss caliber stuff, right? That's what made him so good for 3 or 4 years, right? Was that he can get a strikeout, and if he does give up a hit, it's usually on the ground. This year, he still has a really high ground ball rate, really, really high, actually, one of the highest in baseball, but the K rate has plummeted to being around a league average strikeout pitcher, which means he's giving up a lot more contact, and here we are. I want to specifically focus on his fastball, which has always been his bread and butter. A lot of B's there. Also, always has been, his go-to pitch in pretty much any count and leverage situation. Batters are hitting 362 with a 532 slug against his four-seam fastball this year. His other pitches, honestly, aren't that bad. The stats against everything else in his repertoire, he's mostly a 2-pitch pitcher, but like the sinker, if you want to make it 3-pitch pitcher, and then the slider, those peripherals are actually decent. The fastball is a train wreck, and he throws it more than any other pitch. And so here we are with an ERA over 6 almost at the end of June. Kenley Jansen also plays a huge part in blowing the game on Sunday. He has a 5.31 ERA. I saw some people complaining about just the fact that Kenley Jansen went back out there, I guess, for extra innings after a 1-2-3 ninth. And I do understand that it feels like you're kind of, playing with fire a little bit because of the year he's had. Who else are you going to put in there, man? This is on the bullpen construction. That is not like some managerial blunder. And like, I've been very critical of Hinch this year. I think understandably and deservedly so, like a lot of other people. That specific move, Finnegan already pitched. Vest just blew the game yesterday. Jansen's probably your best reliever currently that's able to go. Holton already pitched. And he throws a center cutter, as he's done so often this year, and now his ERA is well over 5. Tyler Holton gave up a home run on Sunday. Granted, that was an unearned run because of the error. We'll talk about that later. He also had, I guess, like Kyle Finnegan also gave up a home run. He had 3 strikeouts in 4 outs recorded, but gave up a homer. Like, it's not a good bullpen. And like they had decent success in June. That's awesome. I have zero faith in pretty much anyone in this bullpen going forward, regardless of their numbers in the month of June. You have a 3-headed monster we kind of hyped up this year in Finnegan, Jansen, and Vest. Vest ERA over 6, Jansen ERA over 5. Finnegan ERA around 2, but peripherals are terrible and is trending in the wrong direction for a reason. And everybody else is like a hodgepodge of waiver claims and AAA arms that you've called up throughout the year. And Tyler Holden. All right. I want to talk Framber. I want to talk about a few offensive stuff before we get into what went right as well. We'll do all of that right after this. First, though, got to talk to you all about our new friends over at Amazon. Thank you to our friends over at Amazon for this break here. Back to school season, spend less money on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy back to school shopping experiences can be. It starts with a few items on the list, and suddenly you're shopping for supplies, clothes, lunch gear, tech, and about 10 other things you didn't see coming. It adds up really fast. Especially, I know I'm a very tall individual. I dealt with this when I was growing up. When you buy clothes for back to school and then your kid has a growth spurt and then, weeks or months later, you're right back where you started and all of a sudden you need to go back to school shopping again, but it's like the middle of the school year, right? It generally feels like they're growing faster than your budget can keep up. Also, there's just the fact that some supplies cost a heck of a lot of money. When you're buying supplies, you find yourself asking how a calculator became one of the most expensive items in the cart. I wasn't expecting math maybe to cost you so much more before the school year even began. Feels like another life lesson, but we'll leave it at that. Still trying to figure out all of those things. So remember, with Amazon, you can go to Amazon's low back to school prices and spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop Amazon back to school and spend less on your kids. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Yankees, talking about anything else surrounding the Tigers organization, as we always do. If you want to take your listenership to the next level and sulk with the rest of us, you can join the Everydayer Club. You'll get a 7-day free trial if you join right now at LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer. You'll get ad-free audio of this show, as well as access to a group chat with other Everydayers and myself in it. Check out the Everydayer Club today. The Detroit Tigers dropped 3 of 4 to the Houston Astros this weekend. We talked about how much of a train wreck the bullpen was. Starting pitching was really good, except for Framber Valdez, who goes 6 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, and a home run against. His ERA is now 4.05 on the season. This has just been so infuriating for me to watch, and I'm sure for many other people as well. He gives up contact on everything, man. Like, this is the highest AAV ever given to a left-handed starting pitcher. So a left-handed pitcher ever in the history of baseball, and he can't get a swing and miss. This is like Erod all over again, except triple the salary. And he hasn't gone on vacation yet. But like, this is the big expectations from a left-handed free agent signee, supposed to be at the top, toward the top of the rotation, comes in, shows some flashes for stretches or games, but for the most part is consistently just trying to induce weak contact with cutters and sinkers and has around a league average ERA. It's almost copy and paste just 2022 Erod in a lot of ways. Peripherals, ERA, all of that, except Framber's making, again, like 3 times the salary a year. Very frustrating. Offensively, a lot went right on the offensive side of the ball. We'll talk about that here in a second. There are a couple of players and situations I want to bring up, though. One, Colt Keith. He got on base 3 times this weekend. He's still here. The slash line is just awful, man. Like, you look at his triple slash line average OBP slug, for those who are unaware. It's a sub 300 OBP. Okay. This guy was hitting like 340 with all singles in April. He's still hitting over 260 now, and yet his OBP is under 300 because he refuses to draw walks. And his slug is like 370 or 375 because it's just all singles. And then he had the error, right? Which, I mean, I don't care whose fault it is. The fact that the defense still sucks is what I care about. It was not a good throw. I also think Torkelson probably gets a glove on it. I'll put it that way. Just a very, he's a platoon hitter. Colt Keith has been a platoon bat that doesn't hit his platoon anyway very well and doesn't have a position defensively. It's very hard to see the on-the-field value in that profile this season. Matt Vierling also had a couple of knocks this weekend. Still, I cannot stand Matt Vierling at bats at this point, man. It's just he swings at everything. He's got the like just throw the barrel at the bat type of mechanics. And he runs into one every once in a while. He has a sub 600 OPS and a batting average that is almost exactly 200. That's his slash line this year. Lastly, team clutch hitting. The offense had a good weekend, but it was another weekend in which they outslugged their issues and hit enough home runs where they were kind of able to mask the problems that this offense faces. They went 1 for 10 with RISP on Sunday in a game that went into extras. If one of those falls, you're probably talking about a victory in a series split. That's also including a Riley Green strikeout with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth of a tie ball game. He has been very poor in clutch situations this year. His stats with runners in scoring position are well below what his season stat line is. On Saturday, despite putting up 6 runs in 9 innings, they went 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Again, I think it's on the bullpen. I think it's on the roster construction. I think it's on a lot of things. But everything is a factor at this point. And they just can't put a good product together for a prolonged period of time. What went right? Ironically, we're going to start with the offense. 14 runs on Friday and Saturday alone between those two games, and then 19 on the weekend. So in games 2 through 4, almost 20 runs scored in those 3 games. Only 5 strikeouts on Saturday as a team with a couple of home runs in there. That's beautiful. 6 walks and 8 runs on Friday. That's beautiful. I want to start with Zach McKinstry, who had a home run on Sunday, had a couple of hits on Saturday. It's just amazing how different this lineup is when he is producing like he did in the first half of last year, right? Like he's a lefty that can play a lot of different positions. He's fast on the bases. And when he's not an auto out in the batter's box, there's a lot of value he can bring outside of the batter's box as well. But when he is an automatic out, all of that kind of gets null, right? It kind of evens out to just being like a negative. It's not good enough to overcome being an automatic out at the plate. And so in June, he has an above league average OPS, which is really all we need. I don't need him to win a Silver Slugger or be an all-star again. I just need him to be around a league average hitter with everything else that he does, and he can provide value to this team. And that's what we've gotten from him in the month of June. Kerry Carpenter, grand slam on Saturday, home run on Friday, a couple of knocks outside of that as well on Sunday and the rest of the weekend. The defense is still really brutal and has been a really, really bad year for him defensively, but he's another guy. We talked about it on Friday, right? Like he's just so streaky because he kind of swings at everything. And that means that when he's on, and he can be one of the best run producers, if not the best in this entire lineup. But it's a lot of peaks and valleys. And so trying to get him on a little bit more of a consistent level of production would go a long way for the Tigers as well. Want to talk Hao-Yu Lee and then some starting pitching before we get into stuff. We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Talking Hao-Yu Lee, who had a fantastic weekend for the Detroit Tigers. Several hits, a home run on Saturday. He is now hitting in the month of June 390 with an OPS over 900. And that means that his season numbers, despite a really bad month of May, like so many other players on this team, his season stats, he's approaching a 700 OPS on the year, which is not nothing. And his first month or so, he honestly was kind of like right-handed Colt Keith in the sense that he was not striking out a ton, but he was just hitting into a lot of weak contact, a lot of soft hit balls that didn't leave the infield or that squeaked through the infield. Now he's starting to drive the ball a little bit more. And I'm still waiting to see the good walk rate that he had all throughout the minor leagues kind of translate to the major league level. But we're in like the second full month of his major league career, and he's already making adjustments and driving the ball much, much more. This has been a great month. He's hitting, not only is he hitting the ball hard, but he's also hitting lefties well, which was like the whole point, right? What I can remember when they announced they were calling up Hao-Yu Lee, I came on here and compared him to what Andy Ibanez was when Andy Ibanez was really good for the Tigers, 2 years ago in that role where he kind of plays all over the infield and can mash against lefties. That's what we're seeing. And ironically, like he gets a start on Sunday against a righty, but that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing him be honestly way better than Andy Ibanez ever was against right-handed pitching. And in the month of June specifically, he's starting to hit lefties a lot better as well, which was one of the big talking points for him in the minor leagues. So a great month, and hopefully he can keep that ball rolling going forward, and he can, play himself into being a solid major league contributor. Spencer Torkelson, want to give a lot of credit to. I thought he had a pretty solid weekend, all things considered. He didn't set the world on fire or anything, but his stat line on the weekend isn't something like super ridiculous. But had the home run, had a couple of walks, had a couple of hits, sprinkled in there as well. He's just really seeing the ball lately, and it's again, I'll reiterate this. I said it last week. It's all about fastball timing. His hands are moving so quickly through the zone, and he is on time with fastballs really wherever they are in the zone right now. And that's something that's been a huge talking point and a huge question mark for really Tork's entire career. So I'm very pleased to see that. In his last 30 games, he's hitting .231 with an OPS just shy of 800. I'll gladly take that, right? That's wonderful. And a slug just shy of 500, which this team desperately needs. In his last 7 games, he's been on fire all around and has an OPS much, much higher, getting into elite territory, but obviously much smaller sample size. So we'll see. We've seen hot stretches from Tork before, and they're usually followed by big cold stretches. But we're in the midst of him seeing the ball really well, and I hope that this is the one that lasts. But I've said that a lot before, so we'll keep an eye on it. Starting pitching, Cater Montero, 7 innings, 5 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts on 96 pitches. He's a 3.39 ERA now, 7 innings of shutout ball, a sub 3.4 ERA, just continues to have an unbelievable season. I think it's really hard to justify removing him from the rotation at this point. We'll see. We'll talk about that a little bit here in a couple minutes, but he ends this outing with just 3 strikeouts. This was an outing with timely swing and miss. He had 13 whiffs despite the low strikeout number, and the slider was working wonderfully for him this outing. And you don't need to necessarily have the highest strikeout rate in the world, but you do need to be able to get swing and miss when you need to be able to get swing and miss, right? When the situation calls for it. And I felt like this outing was kind of a masterclass representation of that point. So really, really happy for him. And not like looking ahead, this is just like a random exercise I was kind of thinking about during this game. You're losing a lot of starting pitching this year, right? You're presumably losing Skubal. You're probably losing Mize. You're losing Flaherty. I guess you can technically say like Verlander, but like you haven't got him yet. So despite the question marks offensively that this team has, they also have, questions about what the rotation is going to look like going forward. Right now, going into 2027, assuming they play any baseball games in 2027, you have Framber Valdez under contract, which, as frustrating as a season as it's been, like he's still an average starter up to this point this year. Not a bad arm to have, just vastly overpaid. And then Jackson Joe will be fully healthy next year. Reese Olson will be back and fully healthy next year. I mean, Cater Montero, now another relatively young arm that's thrown into that mix. And Troy Melton, you'll have hopefully fully healthy next year. That's 5 that you can live with. And honestly, 4 of those 5 are under team control for like the foreseeable future. I mean, quite a long time looking ahead. So that's to me, like that's an exciting young core of starting pitchers that you can kind of piece together. And you obviously add to it. You don't just be complacent and just sit there and not add any starting pitching the next however many years. But like that has the ability to be a really solid foundation, at least, for rotation. Speaking of, we'll put a bow on starting pitching by talking about Jack Flaherty, his first start back from injury. 5 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. His ERA goes back to under 5 with a 4.97 after this outing. Honestly, the stuff was fantastic, and he worked out of a lot of jams in this outing. Had runners on third a couple of times, had multiple runners on base a couple of times, but was able to get big strikeouts when needed. And it wasn't efficient, right? 90 plus pitches in 5 innings, but no earned runs in 5 innings is really all I care about from Jack at this point, and we will gladly take that. The frustrating thing with Flaherty is he also just like can't seem to put it all together. It's either he's getting a lot of strikeouts, but he's also walking a lot of hitters, or he's giving up a lot of hard contact. There really hasn't been any in between. And so to see him go out there and just have a really solid swing, 3 walks is still far too high of a number, but like just have a really good swing and miss and strikeout outing and getting big strikeouts in big moments with runners on base, I think goes a long way. And yeah, if they're going to sell at the deadline, Flaherty's probably going to get moved. So regardless of your opinion of him, it's still in his best interest to A, stay in the rotation, and B, do well. Speaking of that, we'll go to stuff. Emmanuel De Jesus option to AAA to make room for Jack Flaherty's return. I hate this. And I have been one of the biggest critics of Emmanuel De Jesus this season. He also objectively, over the last month, has been one of your best relievers. And his velocity is way up. The stuff is way up. He's throwing mid-90s fastballs from the left side and has been he's allowed what, like 1 run in a month or something like that. So naturally he gets sent down because this bullpen has just so much talent in it. How can you even, whatever. Jack Flaherty activated. It sounds like they're going to have a 6-man rotation until at least the end of this week. That's when it becomes a question mark because they will have 2 off days in 3 days. They'll have an off day on Friday, weirdly, and then they'll have an off day on Monday as well. So they won't need to go to a 6-man rotation. You don't want, Skubal and Mize and them throwing on like 8 or 9 days of rest with that. So I'd imagine somebody gets the boot, and I'd imagine it's Montero or Melton, which sucks. But again, it'll be like a month, and then when they trade Flaherty and maybe Skubal and maybe Mize, they'll get plenty of starts the last 2 months of the season. Last thing, Gilbert Diaz claimed off waivers going into this weekend, put in AAA. This is the kind of waiver claim that I can pretty easily get behind. I know a lot of people just roll their eyes and they make like the dumpster diving jokes and whatever. And like, I get it. But like, I'd rather have my front office be active rather than inactive. And I think that this one is pretty easy to see the logic and the line of thought here. 25-year-old right-handed arm that throws 97 and 99 miles an hour and has a really high spin rate slider. Yeah, like if that's on waivers, this bullpen stinks. Let's go see if maybe he can be an addition to it. He actually was a top prospect for the Diamondbacks just a few years ago, and awful command, among other things, has really kind of bitten him in the rear end. I mean, a really high walk rate throughout really his entire professional career, giving up a lot of home runs as well. But he has a high strikeout rate and has really good hard throwing stuff. And so these are moves that I can at least appreciate. It's not to say it's definitely going to work or that he's going to turn into like a good major league arm, but like at least you don't have to do a ton of mental gymnastics to see like, oh, like, you know, what do they see in him, or how on earth would he become a good major league arm? Like, it's pretty easy to see with a guy like this. And he's still only 25 years old and is a former top prospect. So why not? The corresponding move there is Wenceel Pérez moved to the 60-day injured list, meaning he can't return until mid-August. They listed it as an orbital fracture. The dude got hit in the face by a like workout band and fractured his eye. I mean, not like his literal eye, but like that part of his face. What is happening this year, dude? What is going on? Okay. Now you play the Yankees again because, of course, Mize against Ryan Weathers. We just faced Ryan Weathers. I'm not going to do too much of a breakdown. We literally just faced him last week. I would like to hit some home runs against the guy who's given up as many home runs this year as he has, but they didn't last time. Whatever. Mize, hopefully he continues to stay hot and have his great season. Really, the only talking point for this series, again, that's not just me regurgitating the preview I just gave you like 4 episodes ago, is game 2 is Skubal against Schlittler, and that is going to be awesome, assuming that Skubal looks even remotely close to how he has the last 2 years, because Schlittler's probably the AL Cy Young favorite as of today. The Yankees just dropped 3 of 4 from the Red Sox. Actually, they could get 4 games swept. I'm recording this before Sunday Night Baseball when they play their finale. So a very emotional series. There was benches cleared at one point. The Red Sox, who have been terrible this year, won at least 3 out of them. But this series is back in New York, as you just played the Yankees at Comerica last week. And I'm at a loss for words, apparently. I just, to me, this season has a fork in it, man. Like it's done. There's always the chance of a 0.2% odds 2024 miracle run, right? But they would need to go on it like now. Like we're running out of time for this miracle run to happen. Because they're going to sell the deadline if they're out of it. And B, what have you seen this year that gives you a lick of hope that is on the table for this team? We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.